Welcome back to Live Impact News here on 13 News Now Plus. Also, for those of us who are watching on YouTube, we appreciate your viewership as well. I'm Eugene Daniel here in our streaming studio in Hampton Roads, Virginia. And across from me is producer extraordinaire Sarah Calloway and meteorologist Hunter Forrest, who is waving to the cameras.
Hello, hello.
But you may not be smiling like he is right now when you hear about this forecast over the weekend. Or maybe some people will because they want it to be snowy and all that kind of stuff. But Hunter, we are in for one type of winter treat potentially this weekend.
Yeah, especially Eastern North Carolina. I do want to shout them out.
Okay.
Because normally they kind of get the back end of these storms.
Yeah.
They get more rain and mix and nada. But this time around, they're going to be the ones getting more than everyone else.
What was that at the end there? You said nada?
Nada.
Okay. Nothing. Okay, I got you.
Well, like everyone else, like in the peninsula,
and then they don't get
Williamsburg.
anything. Not the case this time.
This time they're getting much less.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the opposite of what normally happens. So hopefully they're excited about it. They could see 7, 8, 9 inches of snow plus in a few areas. But yeah, so I'm excited for them. We will have graphics up in just 1 second. I'm just being slow. There it is. Weather impact alert as we head into this upcoming weekend. We've been talking about it over the last couple of days. We've had this in place since I believe around Tuesday or Wednesday of this past work week for the potential to see some accumulating snow, tidal flooding, certainly a possibility, and gusty winds, especially at the coast, 50 to even close to 60 miles an hour, especially down by the Outer Banks. There is a wind advisory and also a high wind warning for the Outer Banks as well. Now, we do have winter storm warnings up for the entire area of Hampton Roads, the peninsulas, the south side, eastern North Carolina, down through the Outer Banks. And then we have winter storm watches, up around the northern neck and into Richmond, Virginia. But what I also want to point out is not only is the entire state of North Carolina under a winter storm warning, but the entire state of South Carolina is also under a winter storm warning. I mean, that's why Charleston, South Carolina, has a winter storm warning. Eastern Georgia as well. It looks like Atlanta is in that winter storm warning as well. And it's just us who really have these alerts throughout the entire country. Winter weather advisories up around Montana and North Dakota. But we are the only places seeing winter storm warnings, except maybe right around Chicago. So it's going to be a nice little winter storm for us. And the good news is that it's going to be mainly snow with this event. We could see a little bit of some rain in the Outer Banks in the beginning, but that's really about it. We're not expecting any ice. We're not expecting any sleet. So you're not going to get, a hard, icy surface on top of the snow at the end of the event. It's going to be light, powdery snow. It's going to be easy to shovel. You could even take a broom. Growing up in Connecticut, when we would get light, fluffy snow like this, and you don't even have a shovel, you can get a nice broom and just broom it off really easily. You could even just kick it away, honestly, with your feet. We're going to be seeing gusty winds, 50 miles an hour plus, especially down by areas like Hatteras. But as we take a look at the futurecast here, the Euro, we'll start to see snow moving in, heading into the early afternoon, especially down by eastern North Carolina. And then we'll continue to see that filling in heading into Saturday evening. So seeing some moderate to heavy snow coming down, especially in eastern North Carolina. And then this continues into early Sunday morning. Starting to wind down early Sunday, 5, 6 o'clock. And then by 7, 8 o'clock, it moves out of the area. That's the European model. If we look at the graph, it has the snow coming in around 1, 2 o'clock in eastern North Carolina in the Outer Banks. And then getting into the south side around 3, 4 o'clock. And you'll see, how, there's like a line. The snow is kind of cut off from the south side and south into eastern North Carolina. as we head into our Saturday evening. You see that not a lot of snow getting up into Williamsburg or Gloucester or even the Eastern Shore. So if that was to be the case, there would be a sharp cutoff of snow totals. So parts of the south side could get, 5, 6, 7 inches, and then just 5 miles to the north, an inch. So there is a potential to see that type of gradient of snow totals, whether it happens like this or further off towards the north. There is going to be a potential big gradient like that.
I just had a quick question.
Yep.
I see that this graphic says 10 o'clock Saturday night.
Yep.
When is it going to start exactly?
Around the early afternoon. At least this model is saying eastern North Carolina around 1, 2 o'clock. Getting into the south side around 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which is a little bit later than kind of anticipated. The European model brings it in the early afternoon, around 12, 1 o'clock. So I would say, if you have any morning plans tomorrow, you're in the clear.
Okay.
Things
I
aren't
just have to drive here.
Oh, then you're good. What time are you coming here?
Probably around noon.
You should be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be good. And then as we head into Saturday night, still seeing some heavy snow in eastern North Carolina and parts of the south side. And then it moves out early Sunday morning, 5, 6 o'clock. And then we just stay cold through the day on Sunday and into Sunday evening. So here's a look at potential snow totals. You'll notice the purple, North Carolina, possibly 8 to 12 inches. Would you look at that? But much of the south side around 4 to 8 inches. So at least 4, 8 max. So don't just look at the highest number. Don't look at 2, 4, 8, 12. Look at 1 to 2. You could see 2 to maybe 4. You could see 4 to up to 8 inches. So at least 4, at max 8. At least 8, max 12. So don't just look at the high number, then you get, 4, and you're like, you said 8. 4 to 8. 4 to 8 is what we're expecting for the south side. 2 to 4 in the blue around Emporia, Williamsburg, and Melfa. Elizabeth City, Nags Head, you guys, possibly 8 to 12 inches of snow. Gonna be pretty. Gonna be pretty down there.
And, we were talking about, this in our first stream when it looks at some of the, I guess, the potential for tidal flooding there as well, or overwash, I should say, along NC-12.
Yeah.
And I told Craig Moeller, our other meteorologist who was there during the stream, I said, I can't remember a time since I've been here over the last 5 years where we've been talking about a winter storm and simultaneously looking ahead for overwash on NC-12, like a double whammy of sorts. Usually when that happens, it's during the middle of the year, a little bit warmer.
There's a hurricane
off the coast.
Yeah.
The fact that we are having to discuss the potential for that tidal flooding.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, it's going to be freezing temperatures. Is incredible.
I mean, this low pressure system is going to be as strong as a tropical storm, even a low end hurricane. Off the coast. We're not going to be seeing hurricane force winds likely, which is great. But, the area closer to the center of this low pressure system off the shore will be seeing those really strong winds, 70, maybe even 80 miles an hour. We are not going to be seeing that. But that's why we're going to be seeing, the tidal flooding, the overwash possible on NC-12 is because this low pressure system is going to be a hefty one. And when you have a really strong low pressure system, you get gusty winds. So as we head into Saturday afternoon, it's not terrible, gusts 20 to 30 miles an hour, but they do start to pick up through the day. So as we head into Saturday evening, 8 o'clock, gusts 30 to 40 miles an hour, pretty much through the entire area, out of the north. And then they really start to pick up early Sunday morning, 5, 6, 7 o'clock. So here we are, 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're gusting close to 50 in Norfolk, 45 in Virginia Beach, over 50 in Kill Devil Hills, 43 in Chesapeake, 41 in Newport News, 43 in Franklin. So really gusty winds. You could see blizzard conditions, especially closer to the coast. certainly not out of the realm of possibility. But we also have to watch out for very cold temperatures. You may be thinking, all right, once the storm passes, we'll warm up, right? I mean, we're not going to stay cold forever. Well, that's what it's looking like. I mean, we really don't have a big warm up on the way anytime soon. And getting into Saturday night and Sunday morning, we have an extreme cold watch. So we'll have wind chills between zero max, and then 5 below. And this is around, 5, 6, 7 o'clock Sunday morning. But let's look at tomorrow wind chills. That's it all day, between 10 and 12 degrees. So, I mean...
Listen, no way around it. It's going to be cold. You
Yeah.
got to layer up. You got to wear all the things.
All right.
And, it's just... When you live along the coast and on the place that has beach in it, like Virginia Beach and those things, and obviously the people who live in the Outer Banks, the last thing you really want to experience are cold temperatures, right? That's the whole point. But, at the very least, we know it's going to be cold.
Yeah.
Really cold over the next few days.
I do want to say, though, if this does make you feel better, a lot of people move to Florida, right, for the warmth.
Yeah.
You could see snow once in a blue moon in the Panhandle.
The moons look pretty blue lately.
Yeah. But there could be some snow flurries in the Tampa Bay area this weekend.
Wow.
So that's pretty wild.
Breaking at 6, pigs are flying.
Literally.
Breaking at 6, pigs are flying. So, one thing we were talking about here, obviously with, the weather in our region, you mentioned the potential totals for North Carolina. I think this is a good point, Sarah. I know we had talked about allowing for North Carolina Josh Stein to speak on their state of emergency that they now have there and what they're doing to prepare and why they're taking the steps that they are taking, in part because of what Hunter just showed us there, that the entire state of North Carolina is looking at some form of wintry mix and could have a significant amount of snow. And as someone who went to college in North Carolina some years ago, I can tell you, whenever there is significant snow, it just really causes havoc, particularly in certain parts of the state that just, at least at the time where I was there, was not used to the amount of snow that we got during certain snowstorms in those years. So they're trying to do everything they can to make sure people are good. So let's go ahead and listen to the governor of North Carolina, Josh Stein. This was recorded just about 2 hours ago as he was speaking to people in the Tar Heel State.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today as we share updates on another winter storm coming to North Carolina. Groundhog Day is just around the corner, and it's starting to feel a bit like Groundhog Week here in North Carolina since we were just up here last Wednesday. I'm joined by Director of Emergency Management, Will Ray, Secretary of Transportation, Daniel Johnson, Secretary of Public Safety, Jeff Smythe, Major General Todd Hunt of the North Carolina National Guard, and the Commander of the State Highway Patrol, Colonel Freddie Johnson. Jackie Matevier and Yasmin Polizzi are our Spanish language interpreters. Our American Sign Language interpreter is Mark Lindberg, and the other is Stephen Holland. If you were disappointed by how few snowflakes fell this past weekend, I have some good news for you. And if you're tired of winter weather, some bad news. This is going to be with us a little bit longer. Starting overnight and continuing through Sunday morning, we expect snowfall across most of the state. However, we don't anticipate ice storms that created the risk of widespread power outages last weekend. But still, we must be prepared. The snow is going to come with strong winds and bitterly cold temperatures. In many places, we don't expect to get above freezing until early next week. So whatever snow falls on Saturday is going to stick around for a while. In coastal North Carolina, especially the Outer Banks, strong tides and high winds could also cause flooding. Strong winds combined with snow can create whiteout conditions, making driving treacherous. We are prepared to respond to whatever the storm may bring. Yesterday, I declared a state of emergency across North Carolina. This will help us qualify for any federal assistance we may need. We've activated the State Emergency Response Team, a cross-agency group that includes the Department of Transportation, Department of Public Safety, North Carolina National Guard, State Highway Patrol, and our state's utilities. NCDOT crews have been working in shifts around the clock on de-icing operations to clear the roadways from what's left from the past weekend storm and anti-icing operations to prepare for the roads for the coming weather. I had the privilege of seeing a number of these workers yesterday at the NCDOT Westgate facility, also known as Brine Mountain, to thank them in person. These folks have been working 90, 100-hour weeks to keep us safe. We all owe them and the many other public servants putting in overtime on our behalf a debt of genuine gratitude. Some of our local government partners are starting to open warming centers, so check your local government management agency's website to see what options are available near you. At this time, because of expected snow accumulation, cold temperatures, and wind gusts, our greatest concern is unsafe travel. So please take a second look at your weekend plans. Stay home and off the roads during winter weather. And if you live in coastal North Carolina, be alert for flooding that the strong winds will likely bring. Do not drive through flood waters. For the most up-to-date roadway information, visit drivenc.gov. And no matter where you live, make sure you're tuned in to your local media, the National Weather Service, and your local emergency management agency for the latest updates and recommendations. Today is the day to get prepared. Make sure you got non-perishable food, plenty of water, and batteries and other supplies in case you get stuck at home or lose power. And please check on your neighbors who may be vulnerable. Let's stick together, keep each other safe, and hope for a fun snow day here in North Carolina, something that we don't get all that often. Thank you, and I'm now going to bring forward Director Ray and then Secretary Johnson.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everyone. A significant weather storm is forecast to begin this afternoon across the mountains, expanding east throughout the evening and overnight periods. Widespread snowfall is forecast with this event, and locally significant snowfall amounts are expected. In addition to snowfall, dangerously cold temperatures and strong wind gusts are forecast through the weekend. These strong wind gusts will bring below zero wind chills across the state and the possibility of coastal flooding. Cold temperatures will linger into early next week, prolonging snowfall impacts. A winter storm warning will go into effect statewide late this afternoon across the mountains and Piedmont, and overnight Friday into Saturday across the coastal plain. Widespread snowfall amounts between 3 to 8 inches are forecast across the state, especially across the coastal plain where the greatest snowfall amounts are most likely. Significant snowfall amounts of 8 to 12 inches are likely across portions of the state, but are dependent on where the heaviest snowfall bands develop. A cold weather advisory will go into effect overnight Friday through overnight Saturday across the eastern half of the state, where near zero wind chills are forecast. An extreme cold watch will go into effect for portions of the mountains from Saturday afternoon until Sunday afternoon, in the Piedmont from Saturday evening through Sunday morning, and in the coastal plain from late Saturday night through Monday morning. Wind chills are forecast to be as low as 22 degrees below zero across the mountains, 5 to 10 degrees below zero for the Piedmont, and 5 degrees below zero for the coastal plain. A high wind warning and wind advisory will be in effect Saturday afternoon and evening across much of the coast. Wind gusts within the high wind warning area are forecast to be up to 55 to 70 miles per hour, and wind gusts within the wind advisory area are forecast to be up to 45 miles per hour. All North Carolinians should be finalizing plans now and should be prepared to stay home and off the roadways starting tonight through early next week. If you need information to assist in your preparation, please visit readync.gov. The State Emergency Response Team, including all interagency partners, private sector, nonprofit, and volunteer agencies, remain activated. There are 4 local states of emergencies and 21 local emergency operations centers activated or in monitoring status. We continue to support and drinking water that were shipped last weekend to supplement local supply. Many communities across the state are opening or staging for shelter locations or warming stations. For the most up-to-date information on those resources available in your community, please visit your local government and local emergency management agency's website and social media accounts. The North Carolina National Guard, the entirety of the North Carolina State Highway Patrol, the North Carolina Forest Service, and the Office of Emergency Medical Services, among others, are all active and moving on to station today across the state to assist local communities and state partners with clearing roadways, responding to emergencies, and with transportation needs. 73 North Carolina National Guard force packages will be on station by tonight and will be assisting with clearing roadways from downed trees, helping disabled motorists, supplementing first responders, and assisting with commodity distribution. These force packages include approximately 341 soldiers and 131 vehicles. While this is not forecast to be an ice event like last weekend, posing a widespread threat to our utility partners, we remain in close coordination with our energy sector organizations who are represented here at the State Emergency Operations Center, and will be closely monitoring power outage information to quickly assist in restoring power in communities that do see outages. Communications personnel and equipment have been pre-deployed to assist with any degradation of 911 systems, radio systems, and phone systems. And as a reminder, 911 should be used for emergencies only. For general information, please call 211 or follow your local government and emergency management websites and social media accounts. Finally, as I continue to say, please check on your friends, your family members, your neighbors, or those in your community who may need additional support this weekend. We are going to see significant winter storm impacts this weekend, and we are stronger and more resilient together. Thank you, Governor, and I'll now turn it over to Secretary Johnson from NCDOT.
Thank you, Governor and Director Ray. NCDOT crews have been operating in overdrive since we started preparing for last week's storm, and we're not letting our foot off the gas. Though we are still clearing areas of the state that have experienced particularly cold temperatures and hardened ice on the roads since last weekend's storm, our resources we've largely shifted our resources to preparing for the ice storm the snowstorm approaching this weekend. We're closely watching this storm. The latest forecast shows that this storm will have statewide impacts on the transportation system and carries the potential for severe impacts on a significant portion of that system. As we did last week, we're encouraging people to stay off the roads as much as possible the next few days. We appreciate everyone's cooperation in limiting travel over the past week. Because North Carolinians heeded the warnings last weekend, we had 0 traffic fatalities related to the storm, and for that, we are very grateful. By staying off the roads, you help keep yourself and your family safe and give our crews the space they need to do their important work. Speaking of that work, I want to take a moment to recognize the thousands of DOT employees and contractors who have put in a major effort over the last 10 days. I'm thankful for all their work and for all the work they'll do over the next several days to help us recover. Over the past 36 hours or so, these crews have put out an additional 1.4 million gallons of brine to pre-treat our roads, which will help keep more ice from forming on the pavement. Once it's safe to do so, our crews will be running plows to remove snow from the roads and to spread sand and salt to help with traction. Rest assured, we'll be working hard to clear the roads as quickly as possible. We ask for your patience as we work through the recovery, especially with more cold temperatures to come in the days ahead. As I mentioned, this storm will impact the entire state, but one area we're watching particularly closely is the Outer Banks and other areas along the coast. As Director Ray and the Governor have shared, in addition to the snow, this storm brings the potential for high winds across the state, and in particular along the coast. One thing we're watching closely is the potential for overwash, particularly in the Outer Banks. This could present dangerous and potentially impassable conditions for driving along the coast. Our crews are ready to respond and will restore the roadway as quickly as possible. And as we did last week, we're working with the State Highway Patrol to remove disabled vehicles from the roadway. This helps keep the roads and shoulders safe for our crews and others involved in emergency response in the days ahead. We'll continue working with our partners, the Highway Patrol and the National Guard, throughout the storm. Please stay informed and, if possible, stay put throughout the duration of this storm until it's deemed safe to travel. People can visit drivenc.gov to view the latest road conditions and other storm-related information. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to the Governor for any questions.
For this storm that is coming. And one of the things that we just heard from them as well is kind of what they are concerned about in the immediate factor, and that is people driving unnecessarily, right? They're trying to get those roads clear. They're trying to get the brine treated for the roads there in North Carolina, because you just showed us some of the snow totals that they could get in the Tar Heel State could get up to, based upon early predictions, up to 12 inches in some parts.
Yeah, certainly not out of the realm of possibility. Even for us here in Hampton Roads, down into eastern North Carolina, our viewing area, 8 to 10, even up to 12 inches possible, which normally isn't the case for that area. Normally they just get some rain and maybe a little bit of some snow, but it's the opposite this time.
Yeah,
so I'm happy for them.
Well, hopefully everything
they're
is going to
happy.
go out well, and we believe that it will. And the governor was talking about, even over the last weekend, he did not believe that they had any motor vehicle fatalities due to the storm and the system there, which is good news you want to hear when you're prepping for any of this, because road conditions become such a major concern. But, Hunter, you were telling us off camera while we were watching that, that we're also looking at winds with all of this as well, and the winds will play a factor when it comes to not only how cold it is, but I imagine too off of the coast.
Yeah, I mean, we could see gusts up to about 30 to 40 miles an hour, and then by the time we get into late Saturday, early Sunday morning, up to 40 to 50 plus miles an hour, even close to 60 down around the Outer Banks. And when you already have cold temperatures and those very gusty winds, it leaves you with a wind chill like this. This is waking up Sunday morning at 7 o'clock. We are feeling like below zero pretty much everywhere. 1 below in Norfolk, 4 below in Suffolk, 3 below in Edenton, 6 in Kill Devil Hills. So you got that. 3 below in Williamsburg. And this is about the time when the snow is going to be moving out. So this could be a good time to, maybe do some sledding if you have a nice hill in your backyard, or finally do some plowing, possibly some, I forgot the word, shoveling. I forgot the word in the noon, and I forgot the word just now. I don't know why that word will not stick in my head, but if you do shovel or you do some sledding, you're going to want to bundle up from head to toe, because it is going to be absolutely freezing and won't take very long to see the effects of some hypothermia. And you may be wondering, but at least there's a warm-up. No, there is not. There's our 10-day. 30s and low 40s, so staying well below average as we head into February, unfortunately.
But that will feel warm compared to what we're
When it's 43, I'm going to be like in shorts and a t-shirt. I get acclimated so easily that I'm going to be like, wow, it's like summer.
I'll never forget, just a quick sidebar, when I lived in Illinois, there was one particular, just because you talked about it'll feel like, much warmer. There was one winter where we hit negative 35 wind chill. I believe that same time span we had like 14, 16 inches of snow, okay? And the following week, it went from negative 35 with the wind chill to 0 degrees. And I felt like I could have put on shorts.
Yep.
I mean, when you have, sustained cold temperatures, you can still be relatively cold. In that case, we were still well below freezing, and you notice the difference in it being warm. It's still cold. I'm not going to sit here and try to, feed you some whatever, but I'd never experienced that.
I know exactly
Except
what
for
you
that.
mean.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
It's cold. It's still freezing.
Yeah.
But it feels warm. I don't know how to say it.
I know what you mean, Eugene. I mean, in high school, I remember one time it was like 10 or 15 below zero for days. And then one day it was like 10, and I put my windows down. I was driving around town with my windows down because I was like, "Ooh, it is warm out." It felt great. So yeah, Sarah, you're right. Next week when we're in the low 40s, we're gonna be going to the beach. We're gonna be having restaurants outside, going to restaurants outside. So we'll be prepared for that.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you, Hunter. I know, our team is going to be here. We can get that slate put up there, Sarah, because I know we have full team coverage that's going to be here over the weekend, our team of meteorologists and our team of reporters as well. Here you see it for yourself. Winter storm team coverage. we're bringing in all the stops, right, to make sure that you are the most prepared for whatever comes our way over the next few days, because that is really the name of the game. It is not to scare, but to prepare. I don't know if we have coined that, but hey, that's what we're saying right now, okay? You want to make sure that you kind of tune in and be alert to what we have going on here with our app, 13 News Now. The app, you can get that on your phone and device. You can also obviously stay plugged in with us here on the streaming app, 13 News Now Plus. That's the QR code. If you're watching us right now and not using your phone, you can scan that QR code with your phone and it will take you directly to the app. All of this is free for you to have through the App Store and on Google Play. And it won't just be our team of meteorologists. We also will have our team of reporters. We'll have our meteorologist who will be here as well, making sure that you are good to go no matter what, including this guy right here, meteorologist Hunter Force, raising his hand for the classroom. He'll be here. What day are you going to be here, Hunter?
Tomorrow I am 10 to 10.
Okay.
And then Sunday 1 to 11:30.
Okay. All right, from 10 to 10, then 1 to 11:30, and then I'll be here Sunday morning as well. But we're going to make sure that you are covered and have everything that you need to know with this storm. Hunter, we appreciate you, man. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Get some rest as we prepare for everything, and we appreciate you. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, one of those other reporters that we showed you there in that graphic, he's going to join us, and we'll talk about more the preparations leading up to this winter weather coverage over the next few days. Thanks for sticking with us here on 13 News Now Plus for live impact news. My name is Eugene Daniel, and we're talking about preparations ahead of this winter weather we're expecting to come into the area starting tomorrow into the weekend. And one of the things that anytime we have extreme cold temperatures, there are a lot of aspects to keep you safe, not just from driving and being on the roads and all of those things, but also when it comes to keeping your heat on, staying warm, and other things to make sure that you are protected. We have Jeremiah Beatty, one of our reporters, who put together a story. I believe she spoke with Virginia Gas on some things that they want you to know ahead of this weekend storm.
This morning, we watched crews here at Virginia Natural Gas prepare to put their skills to the test.
We put a lot of preparation into ensuring that we have the appropriate resources to be able to respond to incidents as they arrive.
The utility company serves more than 300,000 customers across Virginia's south side, maintaining an underground pipeline that delivers natural gas to homes and businesses. Ahead of this weekend's winter weather, crews are bracing for significant impacts. That's why teams began operations as early as 8 a.m. to stage crews across the region from Virginia Beach up to New Kent County.
We've gotten all of our essential material and equipment in place, making sure that it is working in good working order.
And if this storm brings more impact than expected, extra support is already on standby.
We have additional resources coming in from Georgia, again, about 40 resources that will help support that our local team.
Part of that response includes this mobile command center. It allows teams to dispatch orders in real time, access pipeline maps, and if a major issue comes up, stay in direct contact with engineers. But for customers at home, officials say knowing what to look for after the storm can make a big difference.
Locate your gas meter ahead of the storm so that when weather conditions improve, you can go and check those meters.
Jones says be cautious about how you decide to remove that snow.
We urge you to use a broom and not a shovel. This will prevent damage from your meter.
So some good tips there for you. Again, that's Jeremiah Beatty reporting. Something else to make sure that you all know, and we mentioned it in our earlier stream today with meteorologist Craig Muller, is that oftentimes when people are in a pinch, maybe something happens to their heat, etc., they might try to go to different methods to stay warm, like keeping their ovens on, and there are different methods. Please try to refrain, because we do not want to see circumstances where we see fires. We've seen that. We've reported on it. We've had even more tragic results from those things taking place as well over the years, where fires can start and it's just not safe, right? And so we want to make sure that we are taking all the precautions as soon as something happens. So just make sure that you're calling Virginia Natural Gas, that you're calling Dominion Energy. We haven't talked about them today and all the preps that they're doing to make sure that your power can stay on. Call them if you have an outage, if something goes on, so the professionals can come and do what they need to do to help you so that it can be safe and effective in doing so. But continuing the conversation of things that you can do to stay safe, let's bring in one of our reporters, Derek Lytle, who joins us now in our streaming studio. It's so cool to have him. And really cool is not the word, cold is the word. And, you know, Derek, for you, you're working on stories and you've talked to people about the other kind of fear of all of this. If you're exposed to those cold temperatures too long, we're talking the impacts and the possibilities for like hypothermia and others. So what have you learned and what kind of tips have you kind of gathered to share with our viewers on how they can kind of best protect themselves in this type of weather?
Yeah, hey Eugene, you know, I stopped by Centera earlier this morning. I was chatting with some of their doctors, their staff there. It's going to be a long weekend for them. They say that a lot of their staff is actually sleeping overnight at the hospital, headed into that Sunday morning shift just to make sure that they got people on deck and ready. God forbid that things happen out there. But, you know, she shared some tips. A lot of times people think you can get away with, you know, I've got friends that think they can get away with just jeans out there in the cold and things like that. We talked about how quickly frostbite, hypothermia, these kind of scenarios can play out in a matter of minutes. And something that she kind of brought to my attention was the difference in this storm system that we might see coming off the coast in areas like the Outer Banks, where I will be throughout much of the weekend. And she said with, you know, winds that can get up to 50, 60 miles an hour, conditions like that, if you aren't prepared out there, things can turn quickly. And just, you know, we've seen videos across the country in the last couple systems we've seen across even the Midwest where people are carrying neighbors, people in trouble, into even a grocery store to make sure that they get warm. So I think it's just neighbor looking after neighbor and really keeping your eyes out for people that might be in need of help and assistance and making sure we get through it. You know, people in Outer Banks, where I'm going, they've been used to hurricanes. They get through stuff all the time. But when you have snow combined with the wind and all that coming in, it's going to be a lot to see. And, you know, she just had tips. Make sure you get all your gear and equipment ahead of time. And if you can get ahead of shoveling the driveway, things like that, and do it ahead of time or just prepare for it, you know, put some salt down so that you're not out there having to, you know, shovel or put yourself in a dangerous environment. And one of the doctors I talked to was from a snow town, either it was Chicago or Wisconsin, and she said, you know, that we get a lot up there. So she just like, this might not be much for her, but she said people that aren't used to it, just make sure if you're out sledding, if you're out doing something, you know, doing donuts in the car, God forbid you're out there doing that. But she said just be safe and take care of one another, you know, Eugene. It's just about riding it out and getting through it. You know, I stopped in the grocery store on my way back from my last interview, and those shelves were already going with the water and all that stuff again. So,
and you know, and I think to your point there, you're talking about, you know, Illinois, Wisconsin. I've spoken in the past about spending basically a decade in Illinois, and so I know exactly what she was talking about. But you know, you do want to make sure that you are safe, even if we're not, you know. There's one thing about having fun. You're not going to stop people and keep them from going outside and trying to experience, you know, the snow, any kind of thing. That's kind of the magic. Even when you're a kid, snowball fights and sledding and all that kind of stuff. But you got to do it with safety in mind. I think, you know, even based upon what you said, is a good moment to bring up that tragic scenario that happened in Texas that we saw. And you got the two teenage girls who were reportedly best friends who were sledding, connected to, I believe it was a pickup truck or an SUV. A young man was driving it, and they were sledding in, and unfortunately that led to the death of those two young ladies, and now this young man, I can't imagine the grief he's experiencing, but the charges that he's, you know, now facing. Yeah. So, you know, and not to say that's going to happen. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm just saying that is a cautionary tale. You know, I think last time, maybe this time last year, I'll say, when we had the live shots, I don't think it was you. Maybe it was Alex Littlehales. I can't remember who. I think they were in North Carolina or Virginia Beach. Wow, I know I'm not being very specific here. But while we were live, there were some young people who, I think they were in like a golf cart or something, and they were just zipping around trying to, you know, in the snow and I mean, they were having a really good time. Again, have fun. But be safe, even though I think our emergency management folks would probably all be like, we prefer you to be inside.
Look,
you know,
I mean,
and that's
not,
really what it is.
like
We prefer you to be indoors.
We're not out here telling people to not have fun or enjoy the snow, but, you know, maybe you have those sit-down conversations before, you know, your kids go out to play, things like that, and say, hey, things can turn in a matter of seconds. Can just make sure that you're being careful with what you're doing. And I think that can go a long way to preventing some things from happening.
I'd just like to say that you said it's a cautionary tale. That a similar situation did happen in Suffolk last year.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Same situation with a car and a sled. Wow. Yeah.
Yes. I that had escaped my mind, but you are absolutely right, Sarah. That happened right here in our area. You know, and to the point of the people you were talking to, we're getting on hypothermia as well, Derek. You got to wear the right clothes. You know, this is one of those scenarios.
Not shorts.
Not shorts. You know, wear the proper clothing, your gloves. If you absolutely have to go outside, you want to make sure that you have on the appropriate layers.
Yeah, I mean, I even stopped by and interviewed a store manager at a sporting goods store over in Virginia Beach, and he said, you know, he works there, and he realized he didn't have the right jacket this morning, so he bought it from the store he works at. But they said that their numbers, they've seen double, triple the customers coming in to get that last minute, you know, beanie or jacket or boots or whatever they might be missing from the closet. You know, oftentimes we don't look at our inventory, what we own, until that very last minute when you need it to walk out the door. So I think just being prepared, and as we go into Saturday morning and start to see, you know, colder, freezing temperatures and snow, that it's a big thing to just be prepared for it.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and again, speaking of prepared, we're going to make sure that you're prepared. Derek, you're coming in. I know one of these days this weekend. I don't know which one.
I'll be in the OBX.
You'll be in the Outer Banks. Our Outer Banks correspondent
there you
here.
Go. Hey, it's a little different than the swim trunks I had on last time I was
yes,
out there.
Yeah. Leave the swim trunks at home.
Yeah.
But you know, speaking of the Outer Banks, the last time you were down there, we were talking about, you know, the homes that were collapsing along the Outer Banks. And I bring that up now because Sarah brought up a great point too. A part of the projected forecast here, we're looking for some of those waves to be a little bit stronger too, with, you know, some of the winds, etc., which I thought was so interesting with this kind of storm. And so we had questions on whether or not that could potentially mean that some of the historic or the longer, standing homes there could again be in jeopardy. So we'll keep our eyes out for that, of course. These are images that we gathered earlier, months ago. I keep forgetting this is a new year, but there was a stretch of
End
time.
of the month already.
End of the month of the first year of 2026. But there was a stretch of time last year, around
Is it
August,
Yeah.
I think, August or September.
I was holding pieces of, like a foosball table in
Yeah.
my hand. There was nails all in this water because it was one home after the other.
Yeah.
Because the first time it happened, we had like one or two houses, but this time it was just like
There was
one,
like
two,
four or
three,
five
four or
in
five.
one one
and-
day.
Yeah. So with the snow and the significant winds, I would be curious to see if it makes it even more challenging to deal with that.
And the cleanup efforts too, and you don't want to get out there because it's still cold, and so I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but I want to say that it was north of 10 within that stretch of time that had been lost to the ocean. Sarah, I do believe, right? That sounds about right.
I think the first day was like 9, then it jumped to 11. I'm pretty sure. So
I think safe north of 10 is
Yeah.
actually playing it
Yeah.
safe here. So that's another thing that we'll be looking out for potentially. Again, we're not saying it's going to happen. We're just saying while Derek is out there reporting again, you keep your eyes out to see if that's something
Bringing
that
the
we see
waders,
again.
I'll be out there. Hopefully not in the water. But
Yeah,
we'll
well,
see.
yeah, and then we're looking at the overwash potentially on NC-12. Hunter Force will tell us about that. So you're going to have your hands full down there in
interesting
parts
time.
of North Carolina. And again, if you're listening to this, again, we're not trying to scare anybody. We're just talking about all the things that could potentially happen so that you can be the most prepared. Derek, did you get anything else? It's okay if not. I just want to kind of give you the floor real quick to see if there's anything that we hadn't talked about that expert had told you.
Not specifically the expert, but just to touch on the Outer Banks, it is it's still kind of the off season there. But those people I've chatted with ahead of headed down there, and they're resilient. They get through a lot of those challenges, but with the homes falling and all that, they're ready to go with this. But with the nor'easter conditions and everything kind of funneling in, it's going to be I think a little bit different this time around. So everyone's just getting prepared for that. And like I said before, what the expert had told me, their trauma numbers increase, unfortunately, regardless when there's a storm. It's just accidents, freezing roads. And so just be mindful try to give people grace if you're out there and you see somebody needing some assistance. Maybe just stop and think if you can help in any way. I think that's just the best way to get through something like this.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you hear it. That's Derek Lytle, one of our reporters here at 13 News Now. He's going to be down on the Outer Banks as we are tracking the impacts of this winter storm that we're expecting here in the next several hours. You can see there our team is going to be all across the region, and we'll make sure that you know and can see for yourself what's going on here in Hampton Roads and Northeast North Carolina. Derek, we appreciate you, man.
Always.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having
We'll
me
be
again.
talking over the next day or so as things kind of
We'll be
rocking.
going back and forth just like last weekend.
Absolutely, we surely will. And great job last weekend that you did too, man, with our weather coverage. But let's go ahead and take another break, Sarah. Let's do that. We'll be right back in a few minutes with more here on Live Impact News. Okay, thank you for sticking with us here for Live Impact News. We've been talking a lot about this winter weather storm that is expected to come in tomorrow, starting tomorrow and into the weekend. And we appreciate our team of meteorologists of coming in and out of the stream here talking to us. But we do have some other things that we're tracking across the country as well that have a lot of national attention. We told you in the first stream earlier today that we are expecting at some point any minute now for the Senate to cast a vote on whether or not it's going to move forward with a spending package to keep the government funded at least through September. Yesterday, that same bill failed 45-55 because Democrats have repeatedly said that they do not want to increase the funding for DHS. They want to talk about that separately from the spending package. Well, yesterday, Democrats said that them and Republicans in the Senate had reached a deal to take out the DHS spending, place it in its own separate thing. And so we are anticipating that a deal will be struck and that they will be voting on that moving forward some point here relatively soon. I know that the Senate is currently in session. Whether or not they are taking that vote right now, I am not quite sure, but we are expecting that to happen today because this is the deadline for whether or not we avert another government shutdown, at least partially. The last one being historic in nature, 43 days overall, the longest in American history. We know about that. We lived through that. I don't think anybody wants to do it again right now. So will they pass that spending bill? Hopefully. Who knows? Maybe we'll luck out and they'll pass it while we're on this stream here up until 3 o'clock, but we're not quite sure. But a person who also, I think has been vocal, doesn't necessarily want another government shutdown would be President Trump. And we actually just saw from him that he has signed a few executive orders that just wrapped up here within the last several minutes or so. We have not seen it ourselves yet. So we're going to play the signing, at least as much of it as we can, and we'll continue to monitor live events. But this is President Trump just moments ago signing a few executive orders. Let's listen to what he has to say about them, describing them. I'll look up a little bit more information, too, while this is playing. But without further ado, here is the President of the United States, Donald Trump.
I have some incredible people, and this is a very exciting thing that we're doing, and it was fast. They've wanted to do it. I understand they've been here hundreds of times over the years trying to do it, and they're going to give you a little bit of history. Roger Penske, everybody knows, he's a legend in many different things, but certainly in racing. He's won the Indianapolis 500 20 times. On the 18th time, I said, he's been a friend of mine for a long time, but on the 18th time I said, I think I'm going to give him the Presidential Medal of Freedom because, you know, how do you do that? Japan, Germany, Roger, right? Everybody, they want to win the Indy 500. Right. They spend billions of dollars getting a car. This guy wins it like every year. He won it so many times that he ended up buying the track. So now he owns a track, he owns a race. It's pretty good. Now he's won it, though. He won it 2 times since he got it. And it's a total of 20. And didn't you win the Daytona 500?
Yes.
How many times?
4 times.
That's all? That's terrible. I can't believe it. Anyway, if you win it once, it's like great. The guy's amazing. He's a genius, and a real genius at cars and racing. And they are going to put up something that's really amazing. It's really having to do with our great 250th birthday, where we're having so many wonderful things. UFC's coming, as you know, in front of the White House with a building literally a stadium. We're going to have over 100,000 people. And this is going to have a lot of people. I won't even say how many people because I think it can set a record for racing. It's going to be very, very important. We're celebrating Greatness with American Motor Racing. That's going to be the name of the event. It's going to take place on August 21st through the 23rd. And it's going to be so exciting, and I love the racing. I don't have a lot of time to watch it, but I love the racing. And just before we start, I will say numbers came out this morning. They're phenomenal for the country. So we announced yesterday that for the first time in, I think, 28 years, America made more steel than Japan. Can you believe it? Japan's a big steel country. America made more steel than Japan. The numbers are record-setting numbers. Every one of our numbers are good. We've never had anything like it. We have over $18 trillion coming into our country. We're building thousands of plants and all sorts of businesses all over the United States. It's never been anything like it. $18 trillion investment. So we have over $18 trillion being invested in the United States of America. The record was $3 trillion 10 years ago, not by us, by another country. And we're going to do 18, and I think the 18 is going to go higher. We're just looking at 11 months. The 12th month hasn't come in yet, but it's going to bring us over 18, maybe even hit 20. So you have 18 to 20 trillion dollars coming in, and we've never had anything like it. We have a record we just set, as you know. The S&P 500 just set a new record, 7,000. Nobody thought that was possible at this quick a time. They thought maybe at the end of 4 years or 5 years or 6 years. But we did it in the first year. And we had 48 stock market highs, Roger. So Roger's a big beneficiary because he has a lot of stock. But anybody that has stock, including people with 401ks. So the economy has never been like this. It was just announced that crime is at an all-time low. Best numbers on crime in the recorded history of our country, and the lowest numbers of murders in the history of our country that we have. Recorded history goes back 125 years. That's not bad. And a lot of that is because of the fact that we have a closed border. We've taken out thousands and thousands of criminals and murderers and drug dealers and everything else. And we've either brought them back to their country, or in some cases we have to put them in our jails because we don't want to have them come back. And so we don't want to just bring them back to their country and then they maybe come back. Despite our border, they're pretty sneaky, pretty smart. So we're doing things that nobody's ever seen before. The country is really in great shape. We have a large armada, flotilla, you can call it whatever you want, heading toward Iran right now, even larger than what we had in Venezuela. It's still in front of Venezuela. The Venezuelan situation, the leadership is doing a very good job. We're very happy, and we're getting along very, very well. And we're inviting countries of the world very shortly. They're going to be starting to take the oil. We're going to be heading that with the country, and it's worked out really well. We're now sending actually a larger number of ships to Iran, and hopefully we'll make a deal. If we do make a deal, that's good. If we don't make a deal, we'll see what happens. But this is going to be exciting. So I'm going to ask, and he really is a legend. He's a great man. I've known him for a tremendously long time. I refuse to say how. We were both young. Now we're both a little older. We refuse to say old, but we're a little older. But Roger Penske is the chairman, as you know, of Penske Corporation. He's got everything you can imagine, mostly, I think, to do with automotive. And I'd like to ask him to say a few words about the event, because this is going to be, they're putting everything behind it, and I think it's going to be really exciting. Roger, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. This is a really amazing time for us as a company to support the 250th anniversary for the country. And there's no better way for us to bring automotive and speed into the D.C. area and to have the opportunity to be able to compete here with our Indy cars. As you know, we own the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we are taking that history of over 100 years and the speed and what's taken place there with the different manufacturers and bringing it here to this race will be amazing. Certainly the Freedom 250, when you think about it, it's just a byproduct of what the President has done during this year. And this will be an event, obviously, in August, which will make a huge difference. And we're excited, be areas for people to see. Most of the grounds will be free. So it's going to be an economic benefit to the area, to the city, and obviously with our Fox partner, Eric Shanks, will be our media partner. And believe me, what they did for us at Indy this past year, they're going to take that and put it on steroids, really, and take it to the next level. So thank you, Mr. President, for allowing us to come into your city.
It's so great, Roger.
Thank you.
Great man. Eric, I'd like to have you say a few words. He's done a fantastic job at Fox, and he's really excited about this, and I know they're going to lay it on the line. Eric, please.
Sure. Well, thank you, Mr. President, for having us here today. big shout out to Secretary Duffy. This project was kind of on life support until you stepped in recently and got us here today. Secretary Burgum, your team has been absolutely incredible.
Explain how many times you came to Washington trying to do this.
I think Bud came here 81 times.
81 meetings I had in Capitol
Meeting
Hill.
with senators, meeting with people at the Capitol. And they all wanted it. Everybody wanted it, but they couldn't figure it out. It was crazy. 80 some odd times. That's pretty amazing. So go ahead, please.
Well, it's a real honor to be a partner with Roger and IndyCar. And at Fox Sports, we do the biggest events in sports. This year we have the FIFA World Cup that we'll be celebrating here as well. And then dovetailing right after that, to be able to celebrate America's birthday on Fox is an absolutely incredible honor. And everyone at Fox Sports can't wait to see exactly how this is going to unfold and bring it to life. So, Mr. President, thank you again for signing this today.
And the big thing, it's August 21st through the 23rd, and I believe the race is on the 23rd, right?
Yes.
That's going to be incredible. They're going to have practice sessions. It's going to be just a very exciting period, I think, for Washington. If I could, I'd like to ask Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, who's terrific and doing a great job. Much more important than Sean is we have Rachel Campos Duffy here, and she's one of the greatest people I know and one of the greatest people on television. So most of you know her, but I don't think we'll have her speak about the race because she knows less about it than anybody up here. But she is fantastic. Sean, please.
So the president gave us all a directive, which I'm grateful for. We're going to celebrate America's 250th birthday, and he asked all of us to think outside the box. How do we make this historic and cool, and let's all do this together? And he loves the country and loves the birthday, and so we at DOT were working on this concept. We didn't know at the same time Penske was working on the same project too. And so we've come together, and Doug has been a wonderful partner. But to think 190 miles an hour down Pennsylvania Avenue, this is going to be wild. The last time we had a race in the capital city, Bud, was when?
1801, Thomas Jefferson with a horse race.
A horse race in 1801, Mr. President. Now we're going to do a real race.
That's so good. That's such a good.
So listen, this doesn't happen. You know, we just don't come in and ask the president to sign. There's a lot of work that goes into this, as you can tell. Bud and my chief of staff, Pete, all had a lot of meetings on the Hill. We couldn't be more excited about this. Again, I'm going to repeat: this is free for the American people to come to your nation's capital and see a great road race. Freedom, America, speed, and road racing. It doesn't get more American than that, Mr. President. So thank you for signing this, and thanks for all of your support.
Fantastic, and what a job you've done. They put it together very quickly. They've been coming here for years, and everybody wanted it. You know, every senator wants it, every Congress, everybody wants it, but they don't get things done.
Only Mr. President.
Trump gets things done. We didn't have 89 meetings. We had maybe a half a meeting. I think this is probably about a half a meeting. I'd like to thank Pete Meacham for the great job you've done representing us, and Luke Bunting. These are two young people that work with us, and they've really been fantastic. I'd like to ask Doug Burgum to say a few words. He's very much involved through his position of
Okay, we're coming out of that at this moment. Again, that's President Trump, who earlier today signed this executive order. Just to tell you exactly what it is at this point, it's aiming at launching an IndyCar race on the streets of D.C., on the streets of Washington, D.C., this summer in celebration of America's 250th birthday. This executive order would essentially instruct the Interior and Transportation Department to work with local leaders there in D.C. to design a race route that would be near the National Mall. So that is, you know, if you're listening to some of the things that he was saying there, talking about racing, etc., that is why they are discussing that at the moment. And Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy will be a part of this as well, I do believe. Right now, you're not seeing him, but he's in the room there. And the name of it apparently will be called America 250 Grand Prix. So that is what is on the table. That is the executive order that the president is currently signing. Let me see if I can see a date.
I think I saw that it was coming in August.
August 21st through the 23rd. Looks like it would be the date, which is according to IndyCar Racing. It looks like they would be looking at it. That's what's being reported. The weekend of August, or the dates of August 21st, 23rd. I don't want to say the weekend because I haven't looked at whether or not that is a weekend. I would assume that it would be August 21st through the 23rd will be a weekend. Let's see here, Sarah, just real quick, and then we can move on for it. Let's see. Yes, that's a Friday through a Sunday. So August 21st to the 23rd, America 250 Grand Prix. That is what the president just signed to take place in Washington, D.C. All right.
I fast forwarded to the part where he signs it, so he's about to do that.
Okay, so that's what's going to happen here now?
Yeah.
Great, because I know we didn't actually get to see the moments in which he signed it. And for those who are watching right now, this is pre-recorded. We're live. The video is pre-recorded just not that long ago, though, maybe about an hour, I think, is when they wrapped up at the moment. But here he is. This is the moments that the president is signing this executive order to bring this IndyCar racing event to Washington, D.C. in celebration of the country's 250th birthday, which we know there are celebrations all over the place to celebrate that this particular year, 2026. And including here in Virginia with the VA 250 committee getting their celebrations that they've been working on now for about 2 years, maybe more, for this major holiday. There he is. There's Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. They're all the way to the left of your screen. And those were the moments in which the president signed that order. Okay, it is 2:08. We're going to take another quick break here on Live Impact News. Stick with us. We'll have more on the other side. Okay, thank you for sticking with us here for a Live Impact News on 13 News Now Plus. We're actually now going to turn our attention to Georgia. You may have heard the name Laken Riley. It has been a major story, particularly here within the last few years since her death, the 22-year-old's killing back in 2024, which later led to legislation passed and signed within the Trump administration. But right now, the Venezuelan man accused and convicted, of killing the Georgia nursing student, Laken Riley, is in court as we speak, with a judge hearing arguments from his team to request a new trial. We're talking about Jose Ibarra. He was convicted in November of 2024 for murder and other crimes in Riley's death. And he's 28 years old. He had entered the U.S. illegally back in 2022 and was allowed to stay while he pursued his immigration case. I talked about legislation. Now, Riley's death has heightened tensions within the national debate over immigration. It was the first bill that President Donald Trump signed upon taking office last year, the Laken-Riley Act. And it requires the detention of people who are in the country without authorization and are accused of theft and violent crimes. Now, again, right now, he is attempting, his attorneys are attempting to get the conviction at least back before a judge so that they can get a new trial. They have their arguments as to why they believe that should be allowed. We're just going to let you hear from them. Right now, this is happening live. I do believe that this individual who is speaking at the moment, I looked her name up, is a DNA expert, so she is likely being asked questions from either the defense or prosecutors right now, questions pertaining to this case. I'm going to let you listen in. We'll try to gather some more details as we listen as well.
As well as to the victim. And the other people of interest that were tested here, Diego Ibarra, and I can't remember the name of the other Ibarra, begins with an A. Arianes Ibarra. They were both excluded as contributors to the major component. So basically what this had was it had a major component that had 2 people in it, and then it had a minor component that they couldn't do anything with. They couldn't make any comparisons. But they were able to exclude both of those other 2 individuals as contributors to the major component. So this major component was a mixture of 2 people, including both the victim and the defendant.
Okay.
And I also did look at the DNA electrophoregram for this one and determined that the mixture ratio between the 2 of them was approximately equal, with slightly more DNA coming from the victim. And that was also borne out by the Trujillo analysis too. So I looked at the electrophoregram to make sure that it looked as if it was being interpreted properly by Trujillo, and it looked like it was.
Does the minor profile, does it rule out Diego or Arianes?
No.
It does not?
No. It's, again, one of these ones that is too low in information for them to make any comparisons. Okay. So they're only ruled out as belonging, having contributed DNA to this major mixture.
Okay. So, and I'm keep mispronouncing his name, but Arianes and Diego cannot be ruled out. Is that correct?
That's correct. Nobody can.
Okay. And can you tell from, so we know that so from your review, you see that DNA from Mr. Ibarra and Ms. Riley is present on the jacket. Does that result in and of itself, does that tell you when and how the DNA got there?
No.
Okay. And like for when could have the jacket for Mr. Ibarra, when could that have happened? Do you know? Can we tell?
Well, it's hard for me to tell for 2 reasons. I mean, one is fundamentally it's very difficult to say that. No, you can't say. I mean, he could have been wearing the jacket months, weeks, days, or at the time of the crime, before it was collected by the police. So in this particular case, it's we don't know when it got shed on there. The same thing for the victim's DNA. It could be possibly that when the analyst swabbed this, she was actually picking up some of the victim's blood without realizing it, like tiny spatters or something that she didn't see visually. So maybe that's the source of the blood.
At this point,
there's an objection, Dr.
Objection, speculation.
Judge, she's testifying as an expert, giving her opinion based on what she reviewed.
Allow it. You may continue.
Okay. Or it could be she wore the jacket at some time. It could be that she grabbed the jacket. There's really no way of knowing how her DNA got there. No. I also don't know exactly where the jacket was swabbed. That wasn't clear in the analyst bench notes. Whether she swabbed the entire jacket with a swab and kind of tried to pick up as much contact DNA as she could, or if she swabbed, say, the inside collar or something like that.
Is there any other findings that you, or opinions you have based on the findings as it pertains to the jacket?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Let me ask you, for a hypothetical, does the finding of the DNA, does that exclude the possibility that maybe, for a hypothetical, that Mr. Ibarra may have just simply moved the body and not had anything further to do with it except for moving the body? Does it exclude that?
It doesn't exclude that if, I mean, he could have been wearing the jacket when he moved the body and gotten some of the victim's DNA on it during that process, or some blood, whatever. Yeah. I don't see that it excludes it, no.
Okay. And it also doesn't exclude that one of the minor profile, one of the persons that contributed to the minor profile was wearing the jacket beforehand.
Correct.
They were wearing it when the jacket had contact with Miss Riley.
Correct.
All right. What was the next item that you reviewed?
The next item was item 14, which was a sealed sexual assault evidence kit from the victim. It contained some vaginal swabs, anal, perianal swabs, and oral cavity swabs. And what they did was the analyst screened those for male DNA to see if there was any male DNA present, and did not find any, and so there was no further testing of those items.
Okay. So no male DNA found, correct?
Correct.
All right. We'll move on then to the next item. What was the next item that you reviewed?
Item 15, which was a sealed package containing a blood stain from the victim, which was taken in order to obtain her reference DNA profile for comparison purposes.
Okay. So is this like a control sample? Would that be fair to say?
Well, we wouldn't call it that. We call it a reference sample. But the idea is that, when we're making these comparisons with TrueAllele, we're asking TrueAllele, is this person a potential contributor? Is this person a potential contributor? And to do that, TrueAllele needs to know what the profile of that person is, right? So that's what that was taken for.
Okay. So I don't think we need to ask anything further on that. What was the next item that you reviewed?
The next item was item 18, which was a sealed package that contained the fingernail clippings, a collection kit taken from the victim. And there were two sub-items there. There was fingernail clippings from the right hand. There, in the bench notes, it appeared that the analyst noted there was some red-brown staining on those. And there were also some fingernail clippings from the left hand, which also appeared to have a little bit of red-brown staining of some kind. And those were assigned as 18A and 18B. 18A, the analyst took a wet and a dry swab, it's called the wet-dry technique or double swab technique. It's very common to collect evidence from the clippings. She assigned that as item 42. And then she also did the same procedure with the left-hand clippings, and she assigned that as item 43. So going forward into DNA, those were items 42 from the right hand and 43 from the left hand.
And what were your next? Based on that, what was your review on that? What was the next thing you reviewed?
Right. So the laboratory actually did two different types of DNA profiling on the sample. One of them is the normal DNA profiling that we do. This lab uses a kit called GlobalFiler, and it amplifies and types short tandem repeat markers from both males and females. And it's the one that has this very high level of discrimination when you get a good profile. There was also another kit called LiFiler Plus that was used by the lab that looks at the same types of markers present only on the Y chromosome, which is found only in males. And so there were 2 different types of profiles to review and that are in my spreadsheet. When they did the Y-specific or male-specific testing, they got what appeared to be 1 male haplotype, which is what we call a profile off the Y chromosome. And what the lab was able to say was that it was consistent with the Y profile of the defendant and also the RNS, Ibarra. And just for context, in a family, the Y chromosome is passed intact from fathers to sons. So if 2 people are biological brothers, or if they are male biological cousins whose relatedness is through the paternal line, they're all going to have the same Y chromosome, and they're going to carry these same markers, so they're going to have the same haplotype. So anybody in that male line could be the contributor of the DNA, including these 2 particular individuals of interest in this case. So that's what the Y filer plus told us. They then went into the regular global filer test and produced a profile there. Again, due to its complexity, they decided to use TrueAllele as a tool to deconvolute the mixture. TrueAllele came back with at least 2 contributors, where the victim was actually assumed as a contributor in some of their calculations. So she was assumed to be present. And there was a DNA match also to the defendant. And then both of the other persons of interest were excluded as contributors. So what we learned is there are 2 people of interest in the case who were included by the Y filer testing, but when they went into global filer, the other one dropped out, and it's just the defendant here that's included as a potential contributor. I also looked at the DNA profile associated with this and calculated an approximate mixture ratio of 20:1, where the victim was the 20 and the 1 was, with a high level of scientific certainty, was the defendant. There was at least 1 male in the sample, but the male part was partial and very low level. I then confirmed that by looking at the TrueAllele mass table, and they had a ratio of about 95:5, which is 1:20. So all of that matched up, and I felt very confident that that was a good deconvolution of this mixture.
When you say it's a low contribution, what significance of that is that when you find that the mixture is 20:1 and the amount of DNA from Mr. Ibarra is likely very low? What's the significance of that?
Well, I think here, in this particular sample, when we're talking about...
Okay, you were just listening again. That is, I believe, a DNA expert who is providing witness testimony here, as we know that Jose Ibarra, who was convicted in the killing of Laken Riley back in 2024, is currently, his team wants to have that conviction vacated, and they want a new trial. They're arguing that his constitutional rights were violated by a judge's denial of a request so that the defense could have an expert review of key evidence, and by the admission of cell phone evidence that the defense says that it sought to exclude. Again, they want the guilty verdict and the life sentence that he currently has been given to be vacated, and that he be granted a new trial. That is the update in that case. Again, that judge hearing that, and we will see what they ultimately decide. We do want to show you a live look right now on the Senate floor. Big discussion and vote to take place today. That's on whether or not the government is going to continue to be funded funded. They are expected to be voting on this very soon. Again, yesterday, a vote did not pass, 45-55, unanimous among Democrats, and then some Republicans also joining in against that bill. They are saying they do not want to support a spending package that includes an increase in funding with DHS. They want to talk about that separately. Well, yesterday, Democrats said that they were able to reach a deal that would exclude DHS funding and have it been its own conversation separately. So that is what we're expecting is going to be hitting the floor. We're waiting for a count and a final vote. Again, if they're not able to reach a conclusion by tonight or some kind of extension, we could be looking at another partial government shutdown. So that is the story there. We're going to continue to monitor that. And right now, we're going to go ahead. I think this is a good time for us to take another break. Just give us about 2 minutes or so, and we'll be right back here on Live Impact News. All right, thank you for sticking with us here. This is Live Impact News on 13 News Now Plus, where we are following the news that is happening as it happens, not just here in Hampton Roads, Virginia, but across the country and sometimes even across the globe as well. Right now, what we want to do is share with you a major Department of Justice press conference that took place earlier today with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, saying that they are going to be releasing 3 million files from the Epstein case. This is still not all of the documents, which was ordered to be released when the president signed that into law last year. But it is 3 million more pieces of evidence in that case that we are now privy to that has been made public. I will let him communicate that. Again, this is Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche with his press conference speaking to reporters in Washington, D.C. I also believe that he spoke a little bit about what we're seeing in Minneapolis and what is happening there as well. So let's go ahead and play that, Sarah, and listen to his words.
Good morning. President Trump signed the Epstein Files Transparency Act into law on November 19th, 2025, directing the Department of Justice to produce all documents, files, records, videos, and images related to the investigations and prosecutions of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm here today to talk about the department's compliance with its production obligations under the Act. Around, I think right now, and continuing throughout the day-to-day, as the indexing and uploading completes, we are producing responsive materials under the Act. We are also releasing today a letter we are transmitting to Congress and various internal protocols associated with our review. I want to take a moment to thank the professionals at the Department of Justice who met twice daily, sometimes more, for the last 75 days to get to where we are today. The leadership teams from the Office of the Attorney General, from the Deputy Attorney General's office, the Associate Attorney General's office, the Criminal Division, the National Security Division, the FBI, the Southern District of Florida, the Southern District of New York, and the Northern District of New York all gave up many hours every single day on top of their other, of course, full-time obligations to fulfill the President Trump's promise of transparency to the American people. I also want to thank the more than 500 lawyers and professionals across all those divisions that I just mentioned and others who worked long days, nights, weekends, Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, nights, weekends, and holidays to complete this production. These highly trained reviewers spend their careers putting bad guys in jail and effectuating the mission of the department. And to a person, they work tirelessly to protect victims and comply with the act since its passage. So thank you to all of them. Today, we are producing more than 3 million pages, including more than 2,000 videos and 180,000 images. In total, that means that the department produced approximately 3.5 million pages in compliance with the act. Just a quick note about the videos and images. The 2,000 videos and 180,000 images are not all videos and images taken by Mr. Epstein or someone around him. They include large quantities of commercial pornography and images that were seized from Epstein's devices, but which he did not take or that someone around him did not take. Some of the videos, though, and some of the images do appear to be taken by Mr. Epstein or by others around him. Now, I want to talk for a few minutes about the department's document identification and review protocols. It consisted of multiple layers of review and quality control designed to ensure compliance under the act and protect victims. On top of the review protocols that the department had in place, the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York employed an additional review protocol to ensure compliance with a court order requiring United States Attorney Jay Clayton to certify that with respect to certain materials, a large quantity of the materials, a rigorous process was undertaken to protect victims against any clearly unwarranted invasion of their personal privacy. The department's collection effort resulted in more than 6 million pages being identified as potentially responsive, including department and FBI emails, interview summaries, images, videos, and various other materials collected and generated during the various investigations and prosecutions that the act covered. We erred on the side of over-collection of materials from various sources to best ensure maximum transparency and compliance, which necessarily means that the number of responsive pages is significantly smaller than the total number of pages initially collected. That's why I mentioned a moment ago we're releasing more than 3 million pages today and not the 6 million pages that we collected. I want to address what we didn't produce. The categories of documents withheld include those permitted under the Act to be withheld, files that contain personally identifiable information of victims or victims' personal and medical files, and similar files, the disclosure of which would constitute a clearly unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. Any depiction of CSAM or child pornography was obviously excluded. Anything that would jeopardize an active federal investigation. And finally, anything that depicts or contain images of death, physical abuse, or injury, also not produced. Although the Act allows for withholding for items necessary to keep secret in the interest of national security or foreign policy, no files are being withheld or redacted on that basis. Further, as we previously stated in our December 19th letter of last year, the department withheld or redacted files covered by various privileges, as we always do, including deliberative process privilege, work product privilege, and attorney-client privilege. As you all know, under the Act, the Department must subsequently submit to the House and Senate committees on the judiciary a report listing all categories of records released and withheld, a summary of redactions made, including the legal basis for such redactions, and a list of all government officials and politically exposed persons named or referenced in the Act. We will do so in due course as required under the Act. I want to talk for just a moment about the redactions that will be obvious to anyone who reviews the materials that we just produced today. In addition to the documentary redactions, which includes personal identifying information, victim information, and other privileges, there is extensive redactions to images and videos. To protect victims, we redacted every woman depicted in any image or video, with the exception of Ms. Maxwell. We did not redact images of any men, unless it was impossible to redact the woman without also redacting the man. To this end, though, and to ensure transparency, if any member of Congress wishes to review any portions of the responsive production in any unredacted form, they're welcome to make arrangements with the department to do so, and we're happy to do that. I want to talk for a minute about something that is important. Every single day of the year, the Department of Justice investigates and prosecutes those who abuse and traffic young women and children. Just last year, the FBI located over 2,700 victims of child exploitation. The Department of Justice found and terminated 3.8 million dark web pedophile accounts. In August, we charged 11 defendants for extensive sex trafficking in Los Angeles of illegal immigrants and underage women. Last month, we charged 5 men who were engaged in a sadistic sextortion network of deranged young men abusing women. Over the past several months, last summer and into the fall, we executed Operation Restore Justice, rescuing 205 child victims and arresting 293 offenders. I point this out because I take umbrage at the suggestion, which is totally false, that the Attorney General or this department does not take child exploitation or sex trafficking seriously, or that we somehow do not want to protect victims. We do. There are some select members of Congress and some in the public eye, including those most critical of our efforts at full transparency under the Act, who remain silent as to all the work that we have done and continue to do every day in this space, while quickly pointing a finger at the Attorney General or this department because we were careful in our review of millions of pages of documents over the past 2 months. The Attorney General, the Director of the FBI, and our partners throughout this administration work hard every single day to protect the most vulnerable among us. With the production of this magnitude, mistakes are inevitable. We, of course, want to immediately correct any redaction errors that our team may have made, and so the department has established an email inbox for victims to reach us directly to correct redactions and any concerns when appropriate. That's been in existence since December, and we've been doing that since then. Finally, a very small portion of the documents collected pursuant to the Act include materials that a law firm produced to the SDNY in 2019 pursuant to a grand jury subpoena. This was during the criminal investigation of Ms. Maxwell. We determined it would be prudent to seek an order from the court in the Southern District of New York seeking production of these materials subject to the protective order in that civil lawsuit. To that end, the department has filed that motion with the appropriate judge in the SDNY, and if that motion is granted, we'll release those materials with appropriate redactions immediately. Today's release marks the end of a very comprehensive document identification and review process to ensure transparency to the American people and compliance with the Act. The department has engaged in an unprecedented and extensive effort to do so. After submitting the final report to Congress as required under the Act and publishing the written justifications for redactions in the Federal Register, the department's obligations under the Act will be completed. I'm happy to take any questions anybody has about that.
Okay, so you heard from him again, the release 3 million pages from the Epstein files, and him speaking, again, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, as to the timeline of why things are being released now, even though the law says that it had a certain amount of time to be released, I believe within 30 or 60 days. And we did not get all of the documents in that time. He's going through meticulously on what they had to look at. And even with this, the 3 million is still about 3 million left that we do not have access to, according to him. So we are going to take a quick break, but on the other side of this, we'll listen to some of the questions and answers from that press conference. Again, the big news out of it so far is that there are millions of documents now being made available out of the Epstein files. We'll be right back with more Live Impact News. Okay, we said that on the other side of this, we would try to go to the back end of that press conference that was recorded earlier today with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche about the Epstein files. But I want to kind of call an audible right now, Sarah, because we do see on the Senate floor right now, they are discussing, again, we're talking about whether or not senators are going to agree on a spending package to keep the government funded. The deadline is today. So let's go ahead and head to the Senate floor with the gentleman from Kentucky there speaking at the moment.
Much to be desired. Indeed, defense appropriations received a fiscal year 26 defense budget request from OMB that would have amounted to a net cut after inflation and a continuation of the Biden approach to discretionary appropriations. As the president's foremost national defense priorities, however, came into focus, from homeland missile defense to shipbuilding renaissance, the inadequacy of his administration's budget request became undeniably clear. And what about the budget reconciliation process that could have been optimized to make one-time investments in critical sectors of the defense enterprise? Administration budget officials treat it like a shell game. Much of the Defense Subcommittee's most arduous work in recent months has been helping the armed services address real, urgent operational shortfalls that were created when much of Washington decided to pretend that a one-time infusion of cash could take the place of consistent annual appropriations. To be clear, this was not the intention of my friend Chairman Roger Wicker, who's been a far-sighted advocate for sustained increases in annual defense spending. But OMB's effort to shift major long-term funding priorities from the base budget to reconciliation didn't just suddenly obviate the need for steady full-year appropriations. In fact, it just created additional challenges. The full-year bill we're passing today reflects great efforts on the part of Senate appropriators to make up for growing funding shortfalls that are stifling the department's ability to deliver the president's military priorities. These aren't smart, little bitty shortfalls. The administration has acknowledged fiscal year 26 funding gaps of at least, now listen to this, $40 billion. The president's Golden Dome and Golden Fleet will not be built on a bronze budget. That's precisely why Senate appropriators marked a bill that would have exceeded the president's budget request by $22 billion. The conference bill we're voting on today comes in at $14 billion below that top line. So the final bill is only $8.4 billion above the president's request. Clearly, that's not enough to cover an official request for $28 billion in munitions that came in while we were conferencing the bill. Request for $28 billion in munitions came in while we were conferencing the bill. Clearly, it's not enough to cover the $40 billion in shortfalls identified by the department. But within our limited top line, this bill makes modest but important down payments on key priorities for the military: critical munitions, shipbuilding, sixth-generation fighter aircraft, missile defense, and more. In any event, it was always clear that glaring challenges, particularly to the industrial capacity and defense innovation, would not be solved in a single budget cycle. This is the business of years upon years, and it will require, at the most basic level, a renewed recognition of the centrality of hard power. 12 months into the president's term, I'm hopeful that appropriators will have more allies in our work to deliver consistent and increasing full-year resources. The President, for his part, indicated an ambitious goal for the coming year, a 2027 defense budget of $1.5 trillion. Needless to say, building toward this target next year would be a lot easier if we had been able to make more headway this year. Going forward, every stakeholder is going to have to acknowledge that we can't nip and tuck our way to building the military we need to meet growing threats. When administration officials tell the department at the 11th hour to finally make more room for investments in critical munitions, they ought to be ready to join us in advocating for a higher top line, not expect warfighters to take it out of hide. Regardless of whether we're willing to put our money where our mouth is on national defense, we face adversaries who are. And they'll continue to pose growing threats to our security and to our interests. So again, our work is far from over. But as we take this significant step in the right direction, I'd be remiss So as we take this significant step in the right direction, I'd be remiss in not acknowledging the dedicated collaborative efforts of colleagues who recognize the importance of the task at hand, particularly Chair Susan Collins. Clearly the most outstanding appropriations chair in the time that I've been here. And my counterpart, Riskin, both have been fabulous supporters. I'm also deeply grateful to the talented professional staff who have given so many nights and weekends to pull fiscal year 26 appropriations finally across the finish line. On the majority side, Rachel Capivi, Laura Forrest, Megan Handel, Cole Hodge, Alexa Lorick, Todd Phillips, Catherine Plunger, Kim Segura, Tom Schaefer, Elise Stebanick, and of course, the fearless leader to the left here, Robert Karam. We've been friends and collaborators for a long time, and there's nobody better on this subject. And I know my team has appreciated close collaboration with their counterparts on the minority staff, including Gabrielle.
Okay, you're listening there to Mitch McConnell out of Kentucky. Again, the big thing today is, will the Senate agree to pass a funding package for the government to avoid a government shutdown? It does appear that they have reached an agreement for that. We were hoping that a vote would have been done before we got out of this stream, but that has not quite happened yet. But again, the expectation is that a deal has been reached and they will be able to avoid the shutdown by today's deadline. That is all that we have here for Live Impact News. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for this the stream. Remember, if you are watching us on YouTube, go ahead and download the app, 13 News Now Plus. You can find that on Amazon TV, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and also on Roku. That way you won't just be able to stream this broadcast, this stream live, but you have available to you so much more content from here at 13 News Now. So we hope that you're able to do that. We hope that you have a great and safe weekend. Remember, stick with us here at 13 News Now. You can also download the app on your phone so you can stay up to date with this winter weather that we are expecting to come in this weekend. On behalf of myself, Eugene Daniel, and producer Sarah Calloway, have a great, safe weekend.
And stay warm.